Hi everyone! Yay! I have finally gotten around to making videos about the road trip around Japan that me and my sister, commonly called Katten, and a dear friend Heidi went on a couple of months back when they visited me here in Japan. We were gone for about a week, starting here in Tokyo, heading west towards Kyoto, and then sort of looping around, as you can see on the map, finding all sorts of adventures along the way. And I filmed all of it, my goodness. So this will be a bit of a series, everyone. I'm very excited to finally be able to show you this stuff because we had so much fun, and I don't say this very often, but I think you might actually enjoy this. I think you might enjoy watching this video. So there we go, sit back, I have a coffee, and relax everyone. Drink some sake, yeah, or some other Japanese drink. I don't know, some Sapporo beer or something. Because here we go, yeah. Getting out of the biggest metropolis in the world, that is the greater Tokyo area, was really easy for me because I don't have a driver's license. I just sat back letting Heidi drive, navigating the insane web of Tokyo's overpasses and tunnels with deft confidence. She got the hang of it before long, and we were soon out on the highway heading west. Driving in Japan, unless you only ever take smaller roads and not the highways, requires you to pay tolls at the toll gates. Most of the time they only take cash, so unless you are smooth enough to talk your way out of paying the fee, which would be a first in Japanese history, it's a good idea to keep a bunch of cash with you, because as we noticed, this adds up pretty quickly. We followed the law and paid up as good little foreigners, of course, but despite being model gaijins, the traffic gods of Japan took the occasional shit on our chests, nonetheless. Following the coast, our first stop of the trip was Atami, a historic resort town southwest of Tokyo, famous for its hot springs and also for being the birthplace of Peter Stormare, which not too many people know about. Pretty surprising. It's very pretty along the coast, popular among old men excitedly pointing out boats. It is especially lovely as you can see the Atami castle over there in the distance. We didn't see many Japanese castles on this trip, but you know, there's one, so stop complaining. Hur känns turningen? Är det tummen upp?
Nu kan vi ju prata.
Ja, nu kan ni höra så.
Ja. Vad ska vi prata om då? Hur det känns? Det får vi fråga min psykolog om.
Men jag gillar det.
Det är 4,3 för Slappees.
4,3? Det är jävla specifikt.
Ja.
Now the beautiful coast makes you just vomit with appreciation, and the canals of Atami surely have tickled the balls of many tourists throughout the city's long history. But the main reason we stopped here was for something found on the main shopping street, Atami Ginza. And no, it, believe it or not, was not the coin lockers where you could buy 200 yen bags of mandarins either, but it was a place called Pine Tree. It's this really cool little old school cafe that I think has remained like this since its heyday, I assume sometime in the 80s, you know. Even though I wasn't allowed to film out in the sort of towards the interior of the restaurant or the cafe, I was allowed to film the individual dishes that we had at the table, which, as you will notice throughout this trip, were all vegetarian. Just precis. Side note, by the way, I am working on a vegan in Japan video, talking about how much easier it is to find vegan friendly places here in Japan compared to just a few years ago. But yeah, Pine Tree in Atami, very nice place. How can you not like this place? Look at this dessert you can get. My goodness. I don't know how typical this is of Japanese desserts, but it did have a shit ton of cream and fruits, so I guess it's pretty typical. We had a lot of driving to do the first day, so we left Atami behind and headed into the mountains. Japan is very mountainous. I mean, I knew this, of course, before, but we didn't maybe realize just how hilly this trip would be. We kept getting distracted along the way and just had to stop and look at the view. For instance, we took a cute little cable car up Jukoku Pass summit. As you can imagine, it was impossible not to shit oneself with awe at the view from up here. We were not the only ones though, but as you can see, we definitely did not stand out among the other tourists in any way at all. Heidi blended in perfectly. As much fun as we were having up here, as I mentioned, we didn't have much time. We had places to go, so we kept going in our little rental car, which I don't know the brand or anything, but I'm sure I can find the information and put it here. If anyone is interested in that, I don't know. And then finally around a corner we got our first proper view of sort of the reason we traveled up here to begin with. Our first view of Mount Fuji, the by far sexiest mountain in the world. I don't think there's any competition really. I mean, look at that, goodness fucking Christ. Should be just the slogan of this whole region, because fan alltså. It's so good looking. I mean, the rest of the landscape was insane too. I feel a little bad for it because Fuji just steals all the attention, you know. Driving around in these mountains was crazy. It was kind of getting late though, and we had to get to our hotel for the first night, so we had little time for breaks. Jävla tjusiga färger överallt.
Ska jag vara en jobbig man igen och säga?
Ska inte kissa.
A bit later on we reached one of the lakes surrounding the mountain, which not only warranted another stop for pictures and filming, but also the proper reaction. And this was just one of the many insane lake vistas along the way. There are many lakes around on the northern side of Mount Fuji.
Fatta när de här löven.
I used to love jävlarna. The sort of point of this trip, the reason they came to Japan this specific week, was so that we could see a lot of pretty autumn leaves. And it might not look like it in this clip, for instance, but like in a later episode of this series, you will see that, my goodness, we nailed the timing of the autumn leaves. Oh, and also, contest for this video. When do you think this was filmed? If you get the right answer to the day when this was filmed, I will pin that comment. And bonus points if you manage to include the word circumcision. The closer we got to the big mountain, the more impressive the views got, naturally. And as the sun was setting, we got more and more excited.
Jonas.
Oh, hasselmandelmimma, fan.
Nej, ta ner
Träd, jävlar.
Men jävlar vad fint. Och så Taylor.
Yeah, we listened to so much fucking Taylor Swift on this trip. I know the whole lyric to All Too Well at this point. And that is not a short song, you know. All of these amazing views, there simply were not enough words to express how pretty it all was. I love seeing the sort of McDonald's and 7-Elevens in this area. It sort of shakes the whole serenity of the place a little bit. I really like the buildings in front of the mountain. Makes you think what it must be like living here, kind of. Like, do people over here ever just get used to this insane view? It's a hell of a impressive thing to look at while taking a piss after a drunken night out, you know. But then naturally I always have an insane view whenever I unzip my pants, you know. I'll cut that out. But yeah, there we go. It's hard to imagine a better view of Mount Fuji. What a way to end the first day of the trip, you know. Then again, maybe I shouldn't have said that, because my goodness, we woke up on the second day of the trip with this view. I am not one to start days shitting my own pants. I usually shit in someone else's, you know. But I mean, look at this. And trust me, you will see many views of Fuji in the rest of this video. But like, this is how the day started. We woke up at 5:30, I think it was, to catch the morning light over the lake in Fujikawaguchiko, which is where we were. We were naturally pretty excited to get down to the shore. I think most people would be. The mountain gave us energy, you know. But of course the cold and humidity had fogged the car windows. And yet we were determined. Again, you'd have to be crazy to not be excited, because fuck me in all sorts of ways. Look at this. The most properly stunning view I had ever seen. Now, as you can imagine, I took about 45 minutes of B-roll at this place. So here are some fun facts about Mount Fuji. It is 3,776 meters tall, which is the equivalent of stacking about 150 people on top of each other and then adding a whole bunch more, because that's not nearly enough. It's considered a sacred mountain, and it's been depicted in numerous works of art, not to mention every single tourist ad for Japan in history. And I mean, it really makes sense. It being this perfectly shaped, lonely mountain surrounded by nothing, it just takes your breath away and shoves it up your ass. It's also an active volcano, having had its most recent eruption in the 1700s. It's actually due to erupt again soon, and many consider the possibility as one of the worst natural disasters modern day Japan could face. Don't tell my mother, and if you are watching, which you probably are, det hela är väldigt överdrivet. Det är ingenting att oroa sig för.
Heidi, säg vad du gör igen.
Men kolla på Mount Fuji.
Ja, jo, men också.
Också?
Ja.
Fetnjuter.
It's always fun watching others do their Instagram shoots, you know. I suppose we did as well, only a bit different, maybe. But I mean, fair enough, no one in their right mind would not take a picture here. Truly magical, I wrote in capital letters. This being a very geothermal region, the hotel had an onsen, which we of course had to use. Throughout this video, like pretty much every hotel we stayed at had an onsen, by the way, but anyway. And here I am in a yukata, feeling incredibly manly for some reason. I usually don't, but there's something about a yukata that brings out the otherwise slumbering Chad in me, you know. I mean, it doesn't last long, but still.
Jag tar nyckel. Nej, men då kommer inte ni se.
Nej, du får knacka.
Of course I wasn't allowed to film anything in the onsen, but afterwards we headed to yet another Fuji viewing spot. That's right, there hasn't been enough Mount Fuji in this video so far. This time we had to watch out for bears. This angle was also incredibly beautiful, perfectly framed, you know, but also right by the highway, which perhaps took a little bit of the magic away, sort of. In Fujikawaguchiko, we also found this old abandoned maybe community center or shop or something. I've heard of these old ruined houses and buildings, specifically in smaller towns in Japan, left here after the economic crash in the 90s. It's fascinating that we found this even in, you know, Fujikawaguchiko, which you'd imagine would be one of the most popular and therefore most resilient towns, I guess, but here we are. Now our final stop before hitting the road again was this nice little coffee shop called Juden Coffee. You could sort of see the little peak of Fuji peeking through the treetops. And the coffee, I remember, was lovely. Go here. 5 out of 5 fishes. Now, fueled with coffee, on the road we went once again, quickly encountering some sort of older style signs for both Family Mart and 7-Eleven. I wonder why they are a bit brownish compared to their otherwise bright designs. A hint there about what is about to come in the next episode. Just precis fun. But that's for the next episode, so thank you very much for watching and see you next week for episode 2. If you liked this video, I'd really appreciate a like and a comment down below, but yeah, this was just the beginning.